Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we are looking at the absolute ultimate test in the world of pharmacology. I mean, imagine pouring years of research and literally millions of dollars into a new experimental drug. It looks incredibly promising in the lab, it seems okay in early human testing, but now? Now it faces the real gauntlet. We're going to map out the high-stakes, absolutely grueling journey of Phase 3 clinical trials and the new drug application, the NDA. This is the make-or-break moment where scientific theory has to prove it can actually survive and thrive in the real world. Okay, let's dive into this. Here's our checkpoint-by-checkpoint roadmap for today. 1. Welcome to Phase 3. 2. Before the trial begins. 3. Phase 3A versus Phase 3B. And 4. The new drug application. Section 1. Welcome to Phase 3, the therapeutic confirmatory trial. So up until this point, a drug has only really been tested on relatively small groups. But now, we're talking about a massive scale. A Phase 3 trial requires anywhere from several hundred to 3,000 patients across multiple different medical centers. We call this a multicentric trial. This sheer volume is the arena where a drug must confirm its true therapeutic value. You can't just prove a drug works in a vacuum, you've got to prove it works across a diverse population, and often that it actually works better than what's already sitting on pharmacy shelves. And because we're dealing with thousands of patients across all these different medical centers, the time commitment is just massive. We're talking up to 5 long years to complete a Phase 3 trial. It genuinely takes this much time to methodically collect the highly detailed data on how to properly use the drug, and, most crucially, to gather long-term safety data. That kind of information simply won't show up in a trial that only lasts a few weeks. Because of that immense scale and timeline, Phase 3 really zeroes in on 3 core objectives. First up, assessors have to determine the overall and relative therapeutic value, basically balancing efficacy against safety and noting any special properties. Second, they need to pin down the absolute optimal dosage schedule for general use. And third, they have to ensure the dosage schedule used in the trial is as close as humanly possible to its anticipated clinical use. Essentially, these objectives make sure the drug doesn't just work in a highly controlled lab environment, but is dosed correctly and performs safely out in the real world. Section 2. Before the trial begins, the strict prerequisites. A drug can't just waltz right into a Phase 3 trial. It has to get past some serious gatekeepers. So the crucial point here is that early toxicity, side effects, and basic market viability must already be ironed out. Efficacy and a dose schedule have to be defined in Phase 2, with no gross adverse drug reactions. On top of that, long-term preclinical safety studies must be entirely complete. That means the drug was already tested for chronic toxicity, reproductive issues, and carcinogenicity to make sure it doesn't cause cancer. And finally, there has to be a real, favorable market need for this treatment. But here's the thing. Even if the science and the market research look totally perfect, the trial goes absolutely nowhere without the final keys. Strict regulatory green lights are required. Specifically, you have to get approval from an institutional review board, the IRB, and from regulatory authorities like the Drug Controller General of India, or DCGI, depending on your region. These official sign-offs are the absolute final steps before that 5-year Phase 3 journey can even get off the ground. Section 3. Phase 3A versus Phase 3B, disentangling the stages. Now, if you thought Phase 3 was just one giant monolith, well, think again. What's really interesting about this is how cleanly it splits into 2 highly specific sequential subtypes. Phase 3A happens prior to filing the new drug application, the NDA. Its primary goal is to generate that core foundation of sufficient, significant safety and efficacy data. Phase 3B, on the other hand, happens after the NDA is filed, but before the drug's actual launch. The goal shifts here to supplement that earlier data, direct focus toward Phase 4, and critically, it looks at something called label expansion. Let's look a bit closer at that term. Phase 3B is actually often referred to directly as label expansion, and it's a real game changer. It's a highly strategic move where they try to show that the drug works for additional types of patients or even entirely different diseases beyond the original narrow use it's currently seeking approval for. It's a brilliant way to gather extra safety data while simultaneously proving the treatment can help even more people. Section 4. The new drug application, the final boss. All those years of testing, all those millions of data points, they all funnel right into this climax. The end of clinical trials triggers a massive, high-stakes sequence. Step 1, the sponsor's expert committee reviews efficacy, safety, and potential profit. Step Step 2, they make a final go or no-go decision to file the NDA. Step 3, regulatory authorities conduct their own massive review. And Step 4, if approved, the newly invented drug, which is referred to as a new chemical entity, is marketed, and Phase 4 post-market surveillance officially begins. But what exactly is this application we keep mentioning? Well, by definition, a new drug application is a formal proposal submitted to regulatory agencies, like the FDA or the DCGI, requesting approval to sell a new drug. It is literally the ultimate scientific portfolio. It has to contain absolutely all the information gathered during every single step of the journey, from those early preclinical lab tests all the way through the very end of Phase 3. And this brilliantly illustrates the immense burden of proof placed squarely on the drug company's shoulders. The sponsor has to provide sufficient evidence to establish 3 non-negotiable facts. 1, that the drug is both safe and effective. 2, that the medical benefits definitively outweigh the risks. And 3, that the proposed labeling for the drug is entirely appropriate and accurate. It's all about proving, beyond a shadow of a doubt, that this medication is a net positive for society. To achieve that kind of proof, the sheer physical volume of data required is just staggering. We are talking thousands of pages. An NDA isn't some simple form you just fill out on a clipboard. It's a highly complex submission packed with dense clinical data, statistical analyses, and intricate manufacturing details. And because of that immense volume, the waiting game is honestly just as intense as the trial itself. It can take authorities like the FDA an agonizing 2 to 3 years just to review this paperwork. That is years of intense scrutiny by independent medical experts, statisticians, and pharmacologists, poring over every single page to ensure public safety. You know, it's so easy to take that little pill bottle in our medicine cabinet for granted. But next time you take a prescribed medication, will you remember the massive journey it took to reach your pharmacy? Decades of time, thousands of volunteers, and literal mountains of rigorous data all stand behind that single dose. Thank you so much for joining me for this breakdown of clinical trials. If you found this journey insightful, please like, share, and subscribe our channel.